thumbs up in the audience. Hello, good afternoon, everybody. How many entrepreneurs and founders, business owners do we have in the room? Raise your hand. All right. How many aspiring business owners? Maybe you haven't taken that leap yet and you're here so you want to learn more. Some hands are really good. Everyone come on in. We have plenty of room. Don't be shy.
We have front row seats too.
Yes.
Right
VIP just for you.
Church seats.
All right, well, everyone, I'm Kristen Garcia, the Executive Director of the Verge OKC, and welcome. We are on the verge of moving into a new space in the next month and a half, so we're excited to have you guys in here in our initial space that we have, and hopefully we'll see you come November at our new location by the Oklahoma City Memorial. The Verge OKC is a nonprofit. We were established to help kind of create a closer-knit ecosystem, so you'll hear that word quite a bit today. That's basically all of the resources and people who want to see your businesses succeed. This is more than just about your idea and what you're doing, but how can we all work as a village to help you in creating that business. The worst thing that you can do is get your business up and running by yourself. So we are all not the experts in every single area, and so that's why it's valuable that we kind of collectively talk today about all of the members of these business ecosystems. And you'll even see, as we probably talk about some of this, we'll talk about programs that aren't even necessarily business related, they might be more community related. And when we talk about this ecosystem, it really does involve resource providers, investors, government officials, and policy making. Universities, career techs, and education, promoting entrepreneurship to our youth, and so getting them inspired to create the next businesses of Oklahoma City. So what I'll do is I'll have everyone kind of go through the panel and introduce themselves so that you'll know who's on our panel. I'll have a list of questions that I'll go through, but if there's something that you have been interested in learning about, I would encourage you to raise your hand and ask a question, because we want to make sure that we answer the questions that you all have. And then what we'll do is we'll try to wrap up at least with a couple minutes at the end, just for some final thoughts and then some networking. This is all taking place as part of Minority Enterprise Development Week. So thank you to the MED committee for putting this together. I believe our sponsors for the event are Progress OKC, our Mel Family Foundation, as well as The Verge as like initial ecosystem sponsors, and we have a number of other sponsors that we will tell you guys about throughout the week. This is the start of many events, and we hope you can just come to these, and like we said, it takes a village, so meet more people, make connections, and grow yourself as well as your business. So we'll start first with Srijita.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Who's excited for MedWeek? Yeah, I'm super pumped. We just keep elevating every year. So my name is Srijita Ghosh, and I'm a venture advisor at I2E. I2E stands for Innovation to Enterprise. So that's what we do. We help companies, we have founders all the way from the innovation stage, concept stage, to positioning them for funding and building, launching, and growing. Sorry, I'm camera conscious.
It's always temporary.
So yeah, in my role, I get to work directly with the founders. I actually have a background in entrepreneurship. I was a student founder working on a business idea, and one of the why I do this, what I do, and I love doing it, is I had great resources starting off, but at one point, as an immigrant and as an international student, I did not have some of the knowledge of the resources of how to launch my company. So So that is something that's important to me, is ensuring that entrepreneurship is accessible for all, and that's why shout out to Meg for what you're doing. So yeah, great to be here.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kyle Smith. I am the Strategic Partnership Manager for Builders and Backers. Anyone heard of Builders and Backers? All right, awesome. So in my role at Builders and Backers, I basically manage, it's a funny way of saying manage relationships. So, but really what that means to you is I'm pretty much the help our company for any of the resources that come through. So partnerships that we have, whether it's small business development, whether it's venture capital, we have the resources that we will talk to you. So a little bit about Builders and Backers. It is a 90-day virtual program that really deals with the idea stage. And what I like to say, I really like to break it down in layman terms. What Builders and Backers does is helps you validate your idea. So before you start pitch decking, before you start LLCing, before you start doing anything that's going to really cost you any money, we want to know, right? Can you build it? Does anybody want it? And can you sell it, right? And we help you answer those 3 questions before you come out of the idea stage. So Kyle Smith, Builders and Backers, and we're looking forward to talking with you today.
Hi everyone, I'm Kristen Gibbs. I am the gBetat Director for Generator's Oklahoma City Pre-Accelerator. I office here on the Verge with my powerhouse team of ladies, Nita and Daisy are in the back, and I believe Selena's here somewhere as well. So what we are a venture capital and accelerator company, and we have a couple of programs here in Oklahoma City. They're in-person programs. We've got a 12-week investment accelerator for full-time founders that have already passed their MVP and their post-revenue. So that means they've built a product and they're already making money on it. But we also have a free accelerator, and that's our gBetat program, which is the program I run. And it's a 7-week free accelerator, pre-accelerator for people that aren't quite there to the MVP stage yet, or maybe they're not quite ready for revenue, ready to sell. And so what we do is help those folks that have already built a foundation for, with resources like Builders and Backers or I2E, and we build on that to continue to scale them, grow them, and get them ready for investment.
Oh, this is all weird. It's all good. I think it's stressing. All right. It was a friend. Hi, I'm J.D. Baker. I'm the Entrepreneurship Ecosystem Director for Northeast Oklahoma City Renaissance. My second hat, which I'm going to have that, we don't have name tags for that yet, so I have my other name tag. I also serve as the board chair for the Oklahoma City Black Chamber of Commerce. Shout out to our executive director, Jermaine Davis, who's a resource a lot. But at Northeast Oklahoma City Renaissance, we started about 10 years ago as a community group, and then later turned to a nonprofit. But we're focused on being catalysts for place-based change and transformation for Northeast Oklahoma City. But along with that, this includes our programs through, which include the Oklahoma Minority Founder Accelerator, which we currently operate a 10-week accelerator that's focused on lifestyle and Main Street businesses, in which we provide them with founder training as well as operation intervention and comparing them with industry-specific experts, as well as providing them with a non-dilutive grant at the completion of the program. Simultaneously, we're in partnership along with generators as well with the Oklahoma Center for Advancement in Science and Technology, OKC, as many of us know it, but they have through SSVCI, they have a technical assistance program. And so Northeast Oklahoma City Renaissance, our OMFA program, is one of the technical assistance partners. Generator is one of their technical assistant partners, as well as the Oklahoma Farm Bureau. And so through that program, we are able to provide financial advisory, accounting advisory, and legal services to any entrepreneur across the whole state. So it's partnerships like this that really allows us to be engaged with founders and entrepreneurs like you all. So yeah.
Thank you. He knows I'm short, and it would take a lot for me to dive off of this chair. So there was a lot of terms used. How many of you are like, I don't know, like 5 words they said? That's usually a lot of this, is just knowing the language, the terminology, and just the processes. This is a whole other language. So how many of you speak more than one language in the audience? A number of you. So for everyone, you're about to learn to at least speak one other by learning entrepreneurship terms. If you go to the Verge OKC website, one of the things we recently added was a getting started page. We have a list of terms there, so I do want to point you to that so that if you've heard things in this conversation today or later on, and I'll probably let Srijita talk to this a little bit, terminology is a huge thing that can sometimes put us at a disadvantage. So I would love each of our panelists maybe to share, why do you love doing what you do? And what are some of the words or terms that you feel like you would like to share with others so that you can just further explain a little bit about what we do?
Yeah, so try to figure out where to start here. So my love is music, and so I'm also, probably should have said this earlier, I'm starting a royalty-free music business. Thank you. But really where it really started from my love of music and just growing up in church. And so just fast forwarding through that, when I joined Builders and Backers, I learned of a problem. And the problem was that when people got ready to go to market and they needed certain types of music to find, they couldn't do it because the music was licensed. And so they couldn't use it. And so there's this demand for royalty-free music, right? And so that's what I've been kind of just been exploring in the Verge of building. But the reason why this is important is because I didn't start off knowing what I wanted to do. I didn't start off knowing the right path. I didn't start off knowing even who to talk to. It's Liz in the audience. I was talking to Liz out in the audience before we came in, and she started very similarly, right? I just had a conversation and boom, right? And generally that's how it starts. And so for me, just kind of kicking off the conversation, this thing is like a plate of spaghetti. You know what a plate of spaghetti looks like? It's twisted, it's all, there's no right or wrong start path in. You just have to get in it, right? And the one thing that I learned when I got into the spaghetti was that failure didn't exist. And I want to make sure that if I don't say anything, I don't, failure does not exist. And when I was growing up as a musician, grew up in church, you don't want to hit a bad note. You don't want to, right? You laughing, you know, right? You don't want nobody tapping you, telling you, right? telling you to get off the drums or the organ as you, right? So I always grew up not wanting to fail. But that's not how entrepreneurship works, right? You want to fail and you want to fail fast. I don't think this is for other people, but for me. But you want to fail and you want to fail fast, honestly. But for me, it's really about just getting off of the sidelines and getting in the game. Once you see that there's a need, once you see that there's an opportunity, getting off the sidelines, and there's no perfect place to start. You just go.
So I would tack onto that. It is about a lot of failure, but it's failing forward, right? So we're always moving forward and learning from those failures and those mistakes. And I think that's what I really love about this job. I don't come from venture capital. I don't come from this industry. I came from product management. And I didn't know a lot of the terms that were being thrown at me in the first few months that I was in this role. But within 2 years, I have realized that some of the words that I used in product management are very similar to what we use here. MVP, right? Minimum viable product. ICP, I think, is probably one of the ones that I think is the most important for early stage, and that's your ideal customer profile, or your ideal customer persona. You're looking for that one target market that you want to start with to validate what you're doing. And I think those are the two big ones that I learned and realized could transfer between industries. So I think those would be the two terms that I would talk about. But the thing that I love doing is helping people with their ideas and building those ideas with them and teaching them how to fail forward. Sometimes gracefully, sometimes not, right? Sometimes it requires a pivot. Sometimes you have to learn to adapt, right? And I think being able to be part of that growth journey with these founders and these startups has been fantastic. So I think that's my favorite part about my job.
This is all the way down here. Before we take it back. For me, really, you know, every generation of my family, since post Civil War, I've been entrepreneurs every single generation. I mean, I even found a record in the newspaper where my great-great-grandfather, he and his third wife, yeah, seven. He and his great-grandfather. They own a confectionery shop and eat things from the street.
we've had farmers, we've had confection. My grandfather had owned a bingo shop. And my parents currently are entrepreneurs. They own a bunch of blinds of Edmond. I'm trying to give them a shout out, but they need some blinds. So every part of my family have been entrepreneurs. I'm not an entrepreneur, but I do believe in entrepreneurship and really in how it really brings communities together. When you think about your favorite places you love to go, they're probably locally owned restaurants, locally owned businesses. Think about the people that you work with, the closest professional relationships are other probably small businesses or entrepreneurs. And then really what makes, and this is my term, an ecosystem go around. So my title is Entrepreneurship Ecosystem Director. When I got hired in this role, I said, I want the word ecosystem taken out. Because I know a lot of folks don't understand it. But then when the job was truly explained to me, I said, okay, all right, we have to keep it. Because we really want to get folks to understand what an ecosystem is. And so I know the Verge is working on that in MED week, but really ecosystem, just like in ecology and stuff, when you think about biodiversity, those terms and stuff. But if you think about the circle of life, animals and plants, they thrive off of each other. Sometimes if you're growing in a garden, my mom also has a garden, but sometimes if you do a fruit or a vegetable garden, they'll say, plant these type of flowers right next to it because they feed off those nutrients of each other. And that's what an ecosystem is for entrepreneurship. We have a lot of entrepreneurship supporting organizations, or what we call ESOs, and our ecosystem to help support entrepreneurs. So a lot of times we're not competing with each other, we're collaborating, we're working together. Kyle and I really just met before this. We met 2 weeks ago about some stuff. As I said, we partnered with Generator. Our program is actually partnered through I2E. So, and so it's in a lot of ways, one of the Verge board members is one of my colleagues. So it's the same. We have an ecosystem community where we work on entrepreneurs. So if you work for an entrepreneurship support organization, please raise your hand. Okay, great. So see these people around you? Keep your hands up. If you see them, go talk to them. And I know every single one of them, so go talk to them if you need support. Because what Sean may be able to help you with, may not be able to help you with, Joanne may be able to help you with, Joanne may not be able to help you with, Makiba might be able to help you with, what Makiba might not be able to help you with, Melanie can help you with. That's an ecosystem. So.
I think I jumped ahead on my why, so you all know that already. To the ecosystem point, one book that I really have enjoyed, and I suggest anyone who's interested about ecosystem building read, that's Victor Juan's Rainforest. He also has a TED Talk about it if you like to listen. So I work mostly with technology-based companies, so more on the venture capital startup side, but we do refer out companies that may be more lifestyle-based. One thing that's important to know is that even within organizations, the nature of the business world and the nature of startups is such that there's a bit of subjectiveness to everything, right? So it's not like a dictionary that, hey, if this is a pre-accelerator, all pre-accelerators are going to look the same. It's not that. We actually had a great conversation this morning. Meredith, we are launching what we our Bridge 2, but it's really like the Bridge 2 2.0. So while it is an investment pre-accelerator, it does have a lot of the components of what you would see as for a company that is later stage. Now, if you look at funding terms with venture capital, right? I don't even know where to get started, but what a pre-seed might mean in like Silicon Valley investors could be very different for a pre-seed in the Midwest. So what I encourage is that instead of trying to make assumptions, yes, it's good to have a core idea of like know what these terms means. Venture Deals is a good book for anyone interested in kind of terms in the VC ecosystem. But always ask instead of kind of trying to make the assumptions, because there's a lot of subjectiveness, which is good and bad, kind of in our world.
Can I add one more time? Because I want to make a differentiation too. Oh, in the middle. There we go. Figured it out. Fail fast. Business classification, I want to talk about, in our ecosystem, a lot of times we'll talk about high growth businesses. We'll use the terms of Main Street or lifestyle. So I want to kind of break it down in general, because some of you may fall in both. It just depends on what you're looking to do and the outcomes of it. But a lot of times we hear high growth or tech businesses,
a lot of those businesses are gonna be really trying to scale quickly and fast. So a lot of times they're looking for capital, because I also used to work venture capital, so they're looking for capital, they're probably looking for venture capital or equity investment, so basically giving a portion of their business in exchange for capital. While Main Street and lifestyle businesses, which are the ones that we're probably more familiar with on the day-to-day of our lives, including, I mean, outside of software, but probably, you went to a coffee shop this morning or something, that's a Main Street business. If you go to a fitness center that's local, it's probably a Main Street or lifestyle businesses. So those businesses, they can be high growth. Some are not high growth, and so a lot of times they'll be looking for a different type of capital, probably loans or what we call non-dilutive funding. Basically, they don't give up any of their ownership, but they may have to pay capital back or something. So I do want to break down those two and really kind of understand. When you understand which one you kind of fall more into, it might be easier to navigate the type of resources and offerings that our different ecosystem partners have for you. Because if if you go to Kristen, you're probably more likely to, because you run the 12-week program. So, you do both, yeah, you do both. So you can probably do both programs. So, but so there's ways we all can service you, but there's some that can service you more than others.
I wanted to add one more too. I want to talk about traction, okay? So traction, I've talked to a lot of early stage startups that think traction equals revenue. And while it's the best way to show traction, what you're looking for is something to show that somebody wants your product. And I think people automatically dismiss, maybe they've got a wait list for the product they haven't finished building yet. Maybe they've got companies that have already signed on paper, yes, we want your product as soon as it's done. That counts as traction. So don't dismiss things that aren't monetary for not being traction, because sometimes that's the best indicator of success, especially if you're already building and you're like crowdfunding, right? You're crowdsourcing the money to get it built. That's a great source of product validation or product market fit. So I did want to talk about that. And then of course traction is also a great book to read if you want to talk more about that.
Thanks, Kristen.
Oh, you're welcome. No, you guys are just feeding into my next question. So I like that JD pointed out kind of the differences in types of businesses, and primarily for our group of people that are here today, and I want you to spread this message with other people. Starbucks was a coffee shop. So if you aren't focused on even just starting a coffee shop and thinking, oh, I want to be this, like, what people will call a unicorn business that makes billions and billions of money. Well, when they started Starbucks, do you think they thought, oh, that's everyone's, I mean, I have a Starbucks cup right now. They spent way too much money. So I think when we're talking about getting businesses started, sometimes a lot of it is just getting started. And getting started in a way that is comfortable for you and your pocketbook. Because there are three things that are really important to starting your business in the beginning. It's your funding, money, it's your network, and it's also your time. And if you're just getting started and you don't have a network and you don't have the money, your time is the most precious commodity that you have. And so I would love for our panelists to share a little bit about some of the resources or recommendations you have for someone getting started with a business who needs to utilize their time in the most effective way before they start writing out checks to people or signing contracts.
Yeah, I think talking about kind of the funding question and when should you start, yes, money is great, but that is not everything to start a business, right? So one of the kind of, I guess, mistakes that we see is like founders when they're starting out with their companies, the first goal is raising, whether that's equity-based fundraising or even non-dilutive. And while there are several funding sources, it's more important to, like Kyle said, validating that business idea, going and talking to your customers, just kind of getting out of your silo and ensuring that, okay, if I'm creating this cool mousetrap, like who wants it, why is it better, do they have a budget to pay for it? So as far as resources, I mean, I think I'm preaching to the choir because you all are here, but one of the strengths of the Oklahoma ecosystem is that we are highly collaborative. And what is it, Kristen, that we say? It's a coffee state, so you're one coffee away from like knowing me and then my network or JD's network. So don't hesitate to reach out. Launch OKC Metro is a great resource for Oklahoma City area resources. We try to keep it updated with events, programs, and things like that. There's also sort of like, stages that you can look up that, hey, if my company's in this stage, what are the resources that are more geared? But I'm always of the proponent that, we all are here for you. So if you LinkedIn message, email, whatever it is, if you're not bothering anyone, and just ask, and don't, like Kristin said, don't work in a silo. There's lots of resources.
As far as resources goes, I want to go from a different perspective. I currently live in Tulsa, and so I know about that ecosystem there, but why am I sitting here in Oklahoma City? It's due to two words: network and ecosystem, right? And so networking and knowing who is doing what and why they're doing what they're doing, and then being connected to them, right? Those two things together, right, will just open up a plethora of doors for you. And like I said earlier, there's no exact starting point, right? It's not, if I go to 36 degrees, that's the exact starting point. If I go to the verge, that's, no, not necessarily, but we don't want you to not go, because someone or something within that entity could be a starting point for you. So I probably want to hear me say this over and over again. It's just about getting off of the sidelines. I got to switch on experimentation, right? Really about experimenting about what you're doing, right? And then just to hit on something really big, traction, right? And I don't have any money. In fact, what I want to build is going to cost me money. But what I am doing in lieu of that is exactly what she said. Everyone I talk to, I say, well, how do you feel about this project? And how do you feel about licensed music? And I document that, and I have that information so that when it's time, I have that database of people that I can go back and say, hey, I've done some customer discovery. Here's what they're telling me. By the way, here's what my perfect profile looks like too. So those sort of things can be resources as well.
Just saw another word.
That could be
It'll feed into it, I promise. It'll feed into it. So it'll, in terms of resources, so another word that I hear is scrappy. Does everybody know what scrappy means when we're talking about founders? They're resourceful, right? They're resourceful, and they're doing things in a creative way. They're thinking outside the box, and they're not staying on some linear path to get them from point A to point B. They're gonna go from point A to point D to point C, and then to point B to get what they need. And I think understanding that being scrappy is not a bad thing. It's actually a quality we look for people in our programs. That's really important. So making sure that you're looking at all of the places, leaving no rock unturned, is super important. And that includes ecosystem resources. And I think depending on where you're at in terms of funding, maybe you're looking to raise, or maybe you just need money to get to where you need to go. I mean, there's a number of resources available. The first one off the top of my head I can think of is Panelists. I just talked to somebody, had a meeting with them earlier today. They do SBIR and STTR funding, which is not dilutive. Some of that's grants. There's all kinds of money that can be found if you're needing it, but you can also do things in ways that cost very little money, right? Like the validation piece, or crowdsourcing your money, crowdfunding. So I think figuring out where you're at in your stage of your journey, right? I don't know anything. Okay, let me find the resources that help people that don't know anything. Let's start with the very, very top of the funnel. And then, okay, well, maybe I'm already past that. I'm already starting to build. Okay, well, let's find resources. Maybe I should ask the people that work with the people that don't know what they're doing, because they're going to know. I mean, we all, I think, have funneled. I know I have funneled people to each one of these programs.
I talk to them.
Yeah, exactly. And we're a really tight ecosystem in that regard. So even if you run into somebody that maybe they're working within a program that you don't think they're the right stage for, ask them for one introduction. Hey, here's where I'm at. What do you think of my idea? Can you connect me to the right person if you're not the right person? So always ask. The only way you're going to get anywhere is to ask questions, especially in this ecosystem.
Well, they kind of said it all. I'm going to use one anecdote. Liz, Kyle, I think we met Liz at 150.
And then within 7 minutes, she told us her story, she told us her strategy, she told us what she found. It was a great 7 to 10 minutes, like us talking.
We almost sleep.
Right. So I was like, oh, we gotta go. But I want to use your story about Maylin a little bit. But she got a government contract because of one conversation. She told someone about her passion and her work as a personal fitness trainer. They said, oh, actually, I know of an opportunity at Team Air Force Base for group fitness. You should go for it. She didn't have the SAM number, which is the registration number you have to have for federal contracts. She didn't have anything. But she knew what she was passionate about. She knew what her customers wanted, and she knew how she wanted to approach it. And I think that's one thing, is just also think about what your customers are looking for with your product or service. But Liz knew all those things, and she talked to the right person. So it's okay to share your ideas. It is okay to share your ideas. I know folks are like, well, all my ideas get stolen. It's okay to share. Why? Because somebody else can do the same thing, but they're not going to do it the way you do it. They're not going to do it the way you do it. And so there's a lot of folks doing the same thing, but they're doing it differently. And so kudos to you, Liz, for taking that chance and opened a door and opportunity. So I just want to give you a shout out.
So I'm going to share a couple of resources because we have people here in the audience. So we do have friends here with Oklahoma. Programs provide a variety of statewide programs, virtually and in person. Ethan and his team of advisors can help with business plans, financial forecasting. Melanie's teams even have, workshops on using Excel and QuickBooks, and it's free 99. So I say all that because there are resources out there we want to make sure you guys learn about that you can utilize for free, or at least at a very lesser cost, so that you can just establish, is this something I should do? We also have partnerships with OU and Oklahoma City University for entrepreneurship clinics. They provide free legal support to get your business registered, to help you create your operating paperwork. They can look over contracts. They can help you file IP. These are all a lot of new programs from that law set. SBDC and REI have been around for years. And so what's exciting, I think, as you all mentioned, as us working together, is I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to look at your contract and say, yeah, that looks good. But you can talk to a law student who's going to do the research and figure that out for you. So we're always trying to find new partnerships with, again, all of these new support organizations and ecosystems and communities. And a lot of times, I'll work with an entrepreneur who needs a job. They overcommitted to what they wanted to do, and now they need to pay the bills. I am not great at helping you to find a job. I will help look over your resume, but then we have staffing agencies that will connect people. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you're bringing a skill set to a job that other people won't. You decided that you wanted to try on your own and you wanted to try to make it work. What does that mean if you had a job and you were doing that for someone? So that's kind of the value of that process. We've mentioned a couple times money, so funding. And so as I have my panel kind of think of some tips and tricks in regards to funding, one of the things I want to mention, because we do at least have one bank represented with Daniel and True Sky. Is there anybody else in the bank? And then REI provides lending and loans. Anybody else connected with funding?
We have a revolving loan fund.
Revolving loan fund with Northeast Oklahoma City Renaissance. Fairness here with Plains Ventures. And so one of the things that I feel like we have learned a lot more recently, and again, I think it's we all get comfortable. Joanne and I have talked about this a number of times, being comfortable with where we're at on money. Daniel and I had a great conversation about the value of getting to know all of your opportunities for money. So getting the various relationships with banks, talking to your potential loan and VC individuals, working with people at SBDC to determine what would I need to take to a bank so somebody will have a conversation. A lot of it is trust and building relationships. And so we hope today one of the things you do take away is the fact that this is all about relationship building. Don't feel like you have to dive in alone. If you're nervous about your own personal credit, you have people who've started businesses and do that too. So I'll pass it on to our panel, and I'd love you to share some thoughts of when it comes to money, capital, funding, whatever you want to call it for your business. What are some things that you would like to share with business owners?
So we've used the word non-dilutive a few times. Everybody know what non-dilutive means? So we're essentially talking, we don't want to dilute the business. This is funding that is not coming in return of equity. So you're not leaving ownership of your company. So I will say non-dilutive is king, right? So whether you are wanting to start a business that is more high growth, high tech, meaning you want to build it fast and you want to build it big, or you're going for something that is a small business, and it does not necessarily have to have that time restraint of growing really fast or really big very quickly. So non-dilutive is important because one, it gives you a lot of leverage if you are, say, a tech startup founder who plans to raise funding, equity-based funding in the future. If you have some of the early milestones done, some traction that you're able to show, but you still retain ownership of your company, that gives you negotiation power, that gives you more leverage. The other part is, and I'll kind of stick to that kind of the VC side because that's closely what I work with. But with the market, things are pretty tight, right? With venture capital funding, things are tight and it may change. But something you want to do is be able to have that traction when you are going in for those meetings. So it's good to know what's available and what's out there, but the more you can start off lean, so doing as much as you can with a smaller amount of money, being scrappy, being able to show, is to your advantage. And I read this somewhere on LinkedIn where it said, like, especially for technology-based companies that are pursuing that high growth strategy, functioning in the early stages as a VC does not exist, right? Because we see that a little reverse sometimes where raising funding, fundraising becomes the goal and you're moving back from that. So I think we'd encourage you to look at it the other way. It's like, what is your goals for the business? What are the milestones? What are the use of funds? And then thinking about the money aspect and the fundraising.
Yeah, so my comments on that is a few things. So representing builders and backers, we are a venture capital studio, which means we have a suite of resources that we can offer you. We specialize in early stage and pre-seed, so that's really before you start actually raising money. So it's really just mostly building your MVP up to Series A, so that's a little technical, but that's where we are. But also being a part of builders and backers, we are the first to tell you that VC is probably not the best route, right? There's a very small portion of businesses that are starting out that are going to really need VC money, right? And so in that case, you want to look for your CDFIs, you want to look for the small business development organizations, that sort of thing. But for the most part, people like me are bootstrapping. Anybody heard that term? Right? So bootstrapping and being very lean and doing it that way, but you will know when it's time to start raising money. And I'll leave that to the VC experts, but you will know when it's time.
Yeah, so we have an investment accelerator, which I already talked about. It's our 12-week. And just a shameless plug, we extended our applications. They're open for another 2 weeks. So if anybody's interested, get your application in. We've got flyers back there. So we do have investment, right? It's part of venture capital. So we talk a lot about optionality for founders. We know that not everybody's going to want equity taken from their company. We understand that there's a very small portion of companies that can scale the way venture capital needs them to scale. And when we talk about scale, we're looking at 20% month-over-month growth. That's kind of our metric that we look at when we look at applications. So it's a good way to kind of help frame what you're looking for if you're looking for venture capital money. So there are different kinds of funding out there. We have the venture capital side, the investment side, but always be open to looking at different kinds of funding. There can be grants, the non-dilutive, like you were talking about, Srijita. There's a number of different kinds, but always take into consideration what you need and how you want to grow, and that'll help drive your decision making in terms of what kind of funding you take on.
I have 2 points. So I think Kyle said earlier, Srijita talked about looking at CDFI, so that's a community development financial institution. So basically, they can give you similar loans as a bank,
but probably at better terms, probably higher amounts or better terms. So REI Oklahoma, Melanie, raise your hand again. You all have CDFI, right?
Yes.
And then there's also community development corporations that also can do similar things. We'll shout out Progress OKC, Kimberly Francisco. And then there's also credit unions. So more credit unions are getting to commercial lending. So more times than not, they're also able to give you better terms than many banks. So shout out to Daniel Garcia of True Sky Credit Union. I want to make sure I didn't say any other CDFIs, credit unions in the room. But yeah, you know a banker. If you know anybody, another entrepreneur has gotten a loan, just ask them, hey, who's your banker? Because it's about relationships. And you can talk to these lenders without asking for money. Like, hey, if I need some money, like, what do I need to have prepared? They're all about building relationships. And so you can ask them very candidly. And the more times than not, they're gonna give you the right answer. Yeah, exactly. The other thing is, I had two more things. Other thing, resources. I'm going to go to resources. Chambers of Commerce is also a great resource. Shameless plug. But the Minority Chambers of Oklahoma City, we have done a lot of work together. That's the American Indian Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Oklahoma City Asian Chamber of Commerce, the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Greater Oklahoma City, and the Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce. So we do a lot of work together and separately. But we all offer free programming. All of us offer free or low price programming, whether you're a member or not. If you're a member, a lot of it's free, but even a lot of programming, even if you're not a member, it's free. So take advantage of it. Do you have to be Asian, Black, American, Indian, or Hispanic to join them? No, you do not. Those are who we target and cater, but it's not exclusive to that, because at the end of the day, you're an entrepreneur, and there's one thing that we all look at, there's one color that we're all looking for, and that's green. So we all want to help you. We really want to help you really just transform and elevate our community. My last thing is, you can't find capital out of your business. You can find capital within your business, capital efficiency. So think about how you're spending your dollars and think about where they're going. Think about ways to stretch your dollars. That includes, there's tax incentives and tax credits. There's tax opportunities. So when you do owe the federal government, city government, the state government, there are opportunities to take advantage of it. There's one thing I've been really pushing for those who are hiring people, this work opportunity tax credit through the IRS. If there's certain vulnerable groups that are listed, and if you hire one of those folks in vulnerable groups, you can actually lower your tax liability because you're helping one of these folks. So it could be someone who's formerly incarcerated, someone who has a disability. There's a whole plethora of things on the IRS website. But there's opportunities to take advantage of things. So if you have an account, whether or not you have an account or not, if you have an account, ask them. But there's a list of resources on the IRS website, and there's also state opportunities and things. Just once again, you can't find out outside of your business. You can find it within your business. Also, if you hire your children, if you have any teenagers that you're working on your business, there are ways that you can also, once again, lower your tax liability. You don't have to pay, what's it called? What's the old people taxes? Social Security, there you go. Social Security be around by the time we make it there. So I'm not sure if this got another 35 years on it. But yeah, there are opportunities even where you don't have to pay those taxes. So once again, it's also capital efficiency, and I think there's ways to do that.
I want to add one more. Actually, he brought up, and I don't know how I forgot this place to work there, but workforce development is also a way you can tap into. So if you actually have your business and you're up and you're running, you can actually, if you hire someone, they can actually subsidize the employment, right? And so, and whether that's youth-based or adult-based, they can actually subsidize the employment. So that's another opportunity as well. Workforce development centers here.
One more last one. For early stage companies, don't quit your full-time jobs until you validate your idea. Yeah, there can be like pressure, but like sometimes not everybody's journey is going to be the same. So whether it's E3 or gBetat or Builders of Backers, go and talk to people and make sure there's a market for your idea before you take a big step.
Not that I know the specifics of it, but the guy that founded Paycom took out cash from 13 credit cards to get Paycom started. There had to be a lot of like, people are going to pay for this for him to do that. And so I think that's a huge part of it is overall make sure it is a legit business and that's going to be successful. That means don't just ask your family. That means 50 to 100 people said, I will write you a check if you can do this thing for me. You want to guarantee it's in a good spot so that you can decide to take a loan out. That's also, as we mentioned, traction a number of times. Let's you and your bank or whoever you work with know this is something that people want. Because at the end of the day, we all can develop cool stuff, but if we're not really solving a problem, then why does anyone want to spend their money on it? I know right now, like you mentioned, just the market in general, groceries are expensive right now for everyone, right? And so if you're thinking, oh, well now I see some people like, I'm gonna make a smoothie that will cost everyone $20. Well, I could buy some groceries about $20 or get that one smoothie. So just make that time to really look into what you're creating. So the last question I'm gonna ask, and then we'll open it up in case anyone wants to ask something with everyone is, ultimately, we've talked a little about the ecosystem, we've talked about resources, we've talked about funding, but sometimes it's talking about self. So where have you seen or how have you seen those who want to start a business get in their own way that actually prevents them from moving forward in what they should be doing, what they could be doing, and what their potential is? So whoever would like to.
I'll take it off. I may be deviating a little bit from the question, but I really want to touch on this point. Entrepreneurship is kind of similar to sports in some way. You know, I'm a former athlete, so I kind of always draw from that. But your mental health as a founder is extremely important. One of the things that I see is burnout. So, you know, when you're starting off, you're full 100% energy, but there's going to be so many ups and downs in the entrepreneurship journey, whether it's, you know, Paycom or whether it's anyone else. Like I can guarantee you it hasn't been a linear path. So take care of yourself while you're working on the business. As an entrepreneur, as a founder, especially if you have a full-time job, now you're 9 to 5, 5 to 9, or even more, but setting some of those boundaries and setting some of those things in place to take care of your mental health early on is going to help you in the future, because it is a marathon, not a sprint. So take 10 minutes from your Mondays to practice mindfulness for the week. That's my goal.
You're absolutely right. One of the things that I see from builders and backers' perspective, people fall in love with a baby. You know what I mean when I say that? That means when you look at your baby and your idea, you love it, you just cherish it, and you think there's no other idea like yours out there. And in reality, right, the customers will help you figure out you need to pivot. What you're learning helps you figure out you need to pivot, but you're so in love with that baby that you don't want to pivot. And so one of the things that I was speaking about failing fast earlier is understanding when it's time to pivot, right? Don't be so in love with your idea that you're not solving the problem, right? You want to solve the problem, and sometimes your idea helps get to the problem, but pivoting with your idea can really help you solve the problem. So just try not to fall in love with it.
We call that selling the ugly baby. But we here at Generator try to help you make that baby less ugly. I think where I've seen founders get in their own way a lot is trying to make everything perfect before launching, which is where selling the ugly baby comes in. You want to build the ship while you're steering it. You're going to be working really hard and you want to get all these great features out. You want it to be perfect for your very first customer, but you need that first customer to tell you the skateboard is fine, so start building the scooter, so start building the bike, so start building the car. You're trying to be iterative in how you build, and a lot of people want to go from nothing to the car. And that's not how it works, right? You have to start with the wheel first and work your way up. So I've seen a lot of that. And then what you were saying, not being willing to pivot or taking it, you're going to get a lot of conflicting information from a lot of different people, lots of different mentors are gonna tell you a lot of different things, and it's your job to filter through that. And I think keep playing into the mental health piece of it, you have to filter out some of that noise and making sure that your ethos is still there and what you're taking in is gonna help you build what you want to build and what your customers will buy. So I've seen founders get too overwhelmed with too much information and then they end up with an uglier baby. So make sure that you're filtering out the noise and selling while you build and working to get customer validation when your product's not done yet. Start with 1 or 2 features, push that out, make sure it's great, and then continue.
Chris, you gotta take what I said, or what I was about to say. So I would say, yeah, discernment.
I'll
Just
let you
know-
go next.
Yeah, there you go. No, I'm just teasing, but it's once again, even what we tell you, it's not gospel, because it applies differently to everyone. So understanding discernment, so who you're talking to, who's giving you advice, very much what Kristen was saying, and understanding how to filter that. So if someone told you wrong once, it's like, okay, but also think about people's best interest in your business, including your customers. And so, and this is my last thing on the customer thing, you don't have to serve everybody. Everybody's not your customer. Find your focus in the market and lean on that focus in the market. Now, maybe you may have to broaden it out to make sure you have the right volume and the amount of money coming in, but you don't have to market it everybody. You want to market to the people that need your business and want it. And so even that's a part of it, just filtering those out and really understanding what it is.
Great advice. Any questions?
Hi everyone, so my name is Dacia. I am building a gamified web app for children to help them navigate the hospital systems. I would love to connect with everyone, especially some of those I've yet to interview with, like builders and backers. They love to talk. But my question is, so I'm at the very beginning stages of developing this app, right? I have this concept and this really great idea. I'm really excited. I'm saying go. And I'm getting a lot of really great information and making lots of wonderful contacts, right? And all of this information is great, and new terms, and new people, and grant opportunities. I'm trying to figure out the question. Do you have any advice on the best practices for retaining and saving and keeping up with all this information? Right now, I literally have an Excel spreadsheet and I have contacts, and then who do I need to go connect with on LinkedIn, and then grants, and what are all the opportunities there, and then checking things off. But if there's a tool that you can recommend, that would be great.
I don't have a tool, but I think what you're doing is like a great best practice. It's like having that organized structure. Something that a term we used in kind of VC is data room. So data room is usually for organizational legal documents, but you can almost think of it as like your data room for like ecosystem navigation. And you can kind of have your different folders and these connections. So that's the best. I give it real.
No, I 100% agree, but even like what I said, I'm using Google Workspace, and it just allows me to just have my drives, all of my documents that are important in there, all of my master passwords for whatever sites I'm integrating and using, all that's there, right? And so something free as a Google Workspace might be sufficient enough for you to create your data.
It'd be great to learn more about that in builders and backers as well.
For contacts and like a Rolodex of those, I would say HubSpot. Startup companies can often get discounts through them through a number of our programs. I know we have, we're connected with Zamaro now, is that right? Yeah, Zamaro Network, formerly GAN, and they have discounts like that for a lot of different things, including like Amazon Web Services and credits like that. So look into what you can get for being a startup founder. It's that scrappy quality again. Okay.
I would just say add to what you're already doing. Create a matrix, like add even like color coded. So say like red, like this is maybe a dead end for me, or I didn't engage with them. Leave those type of notes. Yellow, like I'm currently developing this relationship, or I might not need it quite yet, but I'm going to put it on hold. And then green, like this, these are so even so it kind of help you like that part of that discernment, like where do I need to kind of focus my time and energy on. So maybe create some type of matrix so you can even measure that for yourself. Like this is where I want to go. Just kind of like narrow down your time and energy.
Okay, thank you. I look
And you're
forward to
awesome.
connecting with
Enjoy your
everyone
call.
soon. You can find me at Brave Nation, DHI.
are documenting everything. So one thing that I would recommend is look up CRM. So that's customer relationship manager or management tools. And you can watch videos on all of these. Like HubSpot, I know has a ton of videos on how to use that. You might say, okay, well that's how much it could cost. But if I could make it in Excel or in Google Sheets and just make it simpler, look for examples of how people are organizing Excel CRMs or spreadsheet CRMs. And I think to your point about that matrix, you can like organize where everything is. Who did I talk to? What did they say? Come back to me when you hit this point, and so I can always go back to that. What other questions? Yes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kay. I'm the owner of Kay's Fish and Chips. So, I am in the pre-revenue stage, and that's a question that I have as well, but I'll talk to you guys later on. So, I had my first event in June, okay? So, I am like at that point where when you say pivot, I'm looking at all of the funding, I'm getting all of this information, meeting great people, but I'm starting to feel like overwhelmed. So what is the process of like when you pivot? Am I pivoting, like, do you think that if I pivot and go to another option to gain the resources to get back to my baby, do you see a lot of business owners doing that, or do you need to stick with your baby and pivot?
So I'm gonna add my 2 cents. So one, I would say sometimes, well, first off, if you're overwhelmed, this might be a good time to say, can somebody come on to help me? Whether that's somebody full-time, or I know we have a couple small businesses in the community that are more like the operations people. You can hire an operations consultant, Line Consulting, what's her name? Line Group. You know, finding somebody who like their thing is organizing operations, business, doing all the stuff that's not so fun, but not bringing somebody on full time, just saying, this is what I need organized and figured out. The other would be pivoting, I think, to go back and then to go forward is not a bad thing. I tell a lot of people, look at McDonald's. McDonald's was hamburgers, fries, soda, fast, and inexpensive. Now you get McDonald's, and it's like, have it your way. I keep saying that, but I don't know if that's better here. But, you know, if you're thinking, what is it that people are gonna pay and what can I get through fast, you might figure out a way to work back and see what is it that people wanna do so that you can help pay for the thing that you really want to do.
The only thing I'll add is, so customer discovery frameworks are something that you can keep using, and we actually encourage people to keep using that. There's never sort of like an end to customer discovery. And when I say customer discovery, it's essentially, you know, what Kristen mentioned earlier, that not just talking to your family and friends, but talking to complete cold calling strangers who fit your ideal target customer market, and getting feedback, not selling, but researching and understanding what is the pain point. So for you, I think there's 2 things, right? Like one, you do have to find that balance of finding like your North Star, and you do stick to your intuition, your gut, because people can have great advice, but after all, the company is yours, right? So balance how much information you're taking in. And then 2, customer discovery. If you're like, okay, this is not quite working. One of the pivots we see a lot is companies starting off like maybe on a B2C business model, which is like a business to consumer, but they're like, hey, we can actually grow faster and we increase our profit margins if we go B2B, that is business to business. That can be a good pivot, but what we say is don't just assume that it's going to be a good pivot. Go and do your customer discovery while you're still creating that traction B2C. So ongoing customer discovery, and hold on to your North Star.
Okay. So, how much experimenting are you doing with your customer base right now?
Well, I've done a lot of research. Like I've been doing this for years. So I've done like about 3 years of research. I know my reason, my business plan. Thanks to Progress OKC. But I've done a lot of research. Like I said, I got a lot of great feedback from the event that I held, that tasting event. So I know my market. I know that it's there. Like I know the need. get to the, I went into debt to launch. So now I'm just kind of climbing back up, and so it's like, now what do I do? I've been applying for grants and, wanting to get into other cohorts, and then even thinking about going into debt to get a loan. So I'm actually getting myself up to par credit-wise and things like that to actually maybe get a loan from a bank. But now I'm just kind of like, I'm just kind of stuck. Like, I don't know exactly which way to go.
Well, based on what you just said, I would have to just agree with Srijita. Maybe the pivot is really more about the customer base and doing the research around that, because it may be easier to get funding that way if you can validate that that's faster to scale and will get you back to, back to the green and out of the red.
Yeah, just sell to your customers. Like, just try to find more customers. I mean, that sounds really straightforward, but like, really, I think that's what it is. I think the other thing is just, really just like looking at, understanding like the ways and opportunities to kind of really, like I said, stretch that capital, figure out what you have and where you can go with it. I have one more piece that I'm forgetting right now, and I think I completely forgot, but okay, we know each other.
Yeah.
It's great to see you, so we'll talk later.
Okay.
Yeah. So just understand how much you're spending, and how much is coming in. So even balancing that out, in a lot of ways. So, and I want to you do catering?
Yeah, I will do catering. That wasn't a part of my baby, but I'm learning how to stay alive.
So that's a tip?
That. Yeah.
All right, so some catering services called Cave Fish and Chips.
Yeah, why you get some lines?
So, one thing I do want to add, and again, I think we mentioned the market aspect of things. And I think this is a good safe space to talk about certain things, but restaurants, food services are going to be the hardest thing to find funding for right now. People don't want to provide loans in that direction just because everything turns around so quickly. So I think, I say that not to deflate what you want to do, but I think and I see Melanie nodding because I know her REI lending team have talked about this. I think there's ways, like JD was mentioning, like maybe it is looking at catering for now to get to where you want to be. I think also in the process it's figuring out, well, who could you sell your food to and when, so that you can start to create that database of these are the people who are ready. Because I don't know what type of fish and chips it is, but I'm always looking for more seafood in Oklahoma because we're so landlocked. But I think that the opportunity to say this is where I want to get to, but I think I've heard with Grace works for OK BioStart across the hall. One of the things that they had a speaker mention is we need more antibiotics on the market for all of the different illnesses that are out there. But getting something on the market like a medicine is like $9 billion. And investors don't want to invest in an antibiotic right now. They're looking at vaccines, they're looking at other things. And so it's like at the end of the day, that's a sad reality, right? Like, oh, there's medicine out there that researchers have created that could keep us healthy or save us. But the people who have the money to make it a reality don't want to invest that money. And I think that's just something worth noting for what everybody's creating, that there just may not be the time and place for what you really want. That doesn't mean that it couldn't happen, but just know that it's not you when it comes down to some of these funding trends, that it's just not the right time, and we'd rather get you in a situation where what is the right time, the right thing right now. Even with the Verge, there's times of like, if this would have gotten started 10 years ago, I don't think Oklahoma City was ready for it, because we needed everybody who's doing what we're doing right now so that we can create communities where people can get help. Sean works with Project 3810, Kara's with Access, they're both incubators. We would rather people come work with us than go sign a lease that they're locked into for 5 to 10 years. Joanne's like, yes. So I mean, there's just more resources now. So however we can help you in that process, that's what we try to help people do. We just don't want anyone to be in a position that then your mental health is impacted even more because you put yourself in a situation that's tough on you and your family.
I have one more capital resource I wanted to talk about, or two more.
I think when you're looking at options of capital, There's not only just like loans, there's also lines of credit. So if you are talking to banks, ask about lines of credit. No, I don't really advise you to use a credit card, especially in this rate market. Don't use a credit card for your business. See and explore if you can get lines of credit. That's certain amounts of capital that you get. You use it to use your business. So especially for restaurants, if you have a big catering order but you don't have enough cash on hand, you use that line of credit to get that, fulfill a contract, pay that money back immediately, and there you go. So that's where a line of credit can come in handy for you. It's going to be a lot better rate than a credit card is going to do it for you. And there's one more really important entity that's not in Oklahoma City, but serves the whole state. TEDC, formerly Tulsa Economic Development Corporation, but TEDC in Tulsa, they have a lot of resources. They received $30 million from the state to give out small business loans. There's small business loan funds. So check out TEDC. They are a great organization. They have worked with a lot of small business entrepreneurs across the state to really make their dreams come to reality. Of all the resources in the state, they're one of the best capital partners you can find.
To piggyback off the TDC, I'm currently in one of the classes now, just to make sure they're doing what they said they are, and they are. And so if I can be a help to connecting you, please let me know. I was just coming on.
So we go back to me.
Yep.
All right, well, we're a little over time. I'm going to be respectful of everyone's time. Thank you so much to all of our panelists. I know you can connect to all of them for sure via LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, we'd be happy to help you get one set up. It's a great way to network with people in the business community. If not, please get connected to all of them on social media or with their organizations. And I'm sure everybody will be at another event sometime this week. Thank you for Kyle for joining us from Tulsa. Again, it's important that we're working throughout the state. We have OKC Tech Plus tonight. That is a quarterly event that we have. It's open to everybody. So you may say, like, I'm not a tech company. Well, the cool thing is what we've noticed is by bringing in the tech people to the entrepreneurship community, people get connected to people they would have never normally talked to before. So you're all invited. There'll be free beer, there'll be food, and we'll talk a little bit more about MedWeek as well as a new partnership that we have with the Oklahoma Commercialization Network to help people grow their businesses throughout the state and beyond. So thank you all for joining us today and have a great rest of the day.